The moment the little girl looked into my eyes and whispered, "Mom said we'd find you here," the crowded rooftop celebration around me disappeared. The laughter faded. The music became a distant echo. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe because I had never seen her before. Yet something in her bright green eyes felt painfully familiar. She smiled as though she had finally found someone she had been searching for all her life, and in that single moment, everything I believed about my future began to unravel. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps more inspiring stories reach people who may need them today. My name is Nathan, and at 38 I believed life had already shown me every kind of disappointment. I lived in Chicago, Illinois, working as an architect who spent more time designing homes than living in one. Years earlier, I had been engaged to a wonderful woman named Rebecca, but fear, poor timing, and pride had quietly destroyed what we once dreamed of building together. She moved away, I buried myself in work, and eventually I convinced myself that some chapters were never meant to reopen. That Saturday afternoon, I attended the retirement celebration of an old colleague. The room overlooked the city skyline, filled with sunlight pouring through enormous windows. People laughed over coffee and cake while I stood near the balcony, feeling strangely out of place despite the crowd surrounding me. I had almost decided to leave when I noticed a young woman standing near the entrance with a little girl holding her hand. The child couldn't have been older than 6. She wore a yellow cardigan over a simple blue dress, and her face glowed with the kind of fearless happiness only children possess. Without hesitation, she let go of her mother's hand and walked straight toward me. The words she spoke stopped time. She told me her mother had said they would find me there. Confused, I looked up at the woman following behind her, Rebecca. 7 years had changed both of us. There were a few silver threads in her hair, and a quiet strength in her eyes that hadn't existed before. She looked nervous, almost frightened, yet determined enough to keep walking until she stood only a few feet away. Nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Rebecca explained that after we separated, life had taken unexpected turns. She had become a foster mother after volunteering at a children's center. One frightened little girl named Grace had entered her life carrying almost nothing except a stuffed rabbit and a heart desperate to trust someone again. Rebecca eventually adopted her, promising she would never have to face the world alone again. As Grace grew older, she often asked why other children had fathers while she didn't. Rebecca never wanted to invent stories or fill the child's heart with false promises. Instead, she told Grace about a man she had once loved deeply, a man who was gentle, patient, and kind even when life became difficult. She never claimed he was Grace's father. She simply said that if she ever met someone like him again, she hoped he would become part of their lives. Months earlier, Rebecca had learned through mutual friends that I would attend the retirement celebration. She almost stayed home. Fear nearly convinced her that reopening old memories would only bring more pain. But Grace had insisted on coming because she wanted to meet the man whose kindness had inspired so many bedtime stories. I didn't know what to say. I knelt beside Grace, who proudly showed me the drawing she had carried in her tiny backpack. It was a picture of 3 people standing in front of a little white house with flowers covering the front yard. She explained that families didn't always begin together. Sometimes, she said with innocent confidence, they simply found each other when they needed one another most. Her words reached places inside my heart that years of success and lonely evenings never could. Over the following months, I slowly became part of their lives. There were Saturday visits to parks, pancake breakfasts, school concerts, and long afternoons helping Grace build birdhouses in my garage. Nothing happened quickly. Trust wasn't rushed. Rebecca and I spoke honestly about the mistakes we had both made years ago. We admitted that pride had stolen more from us than circumstances ever had. Grace never tried to replace what she had lost before entering Rebecca's life. Instead, she reminded us every day that love isn't measured by shared history but by the willingness to show up, stay present, and choose one another again and again. One autumn evening, we finally stood together outside the small white house Grace had once drawn on paper. It wasn't identical, but it had a front porch, flower beds, and enough room for new memories to grow. Grace laughed as she planted tiny sunflowers beside the walkway while Rebecca quietly slipped her hand into mine. For the first time in years, home wasn't a place, it was people. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes that hope can return when it's least expected. Stories like this remind us that the greatest miracles often arrive quietly. And before this story ends, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment telling us whether you believe families are created by blood, by love, or by both. Your words may encourage someone reading them today. Looking back, I often think about that impossible moment when one little girl smiled and said her mother had come to find me. She wasn't offering me a perfect life. She wasn't asking me to erase the past. She was simply opening a door I believed had closed forever. Sometimes God answers prayers we stopped praying years ago, not by restoring what was lost exactly as it was, but by giving us something even richer, an opportunity to love again with wiser hearts, stronger faith, and deeper gratitude. And every spring, when the sunflowers bloom outside our front porch, I'm reminded that hope has an extraordinary way of finding those who thought they were no longer worth searching for.